Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Bold You, a show that is dedicated to inspiring everyone out there to play bigger, to be bolder, and to step out of our comfort zones, because that is the only way we are going to achieve more and that we are going to do more. I don't know about you out there, but I know with every fiber in my being that we are in a war. It's a war between good and evil. It has always been that way. It will always be that way. And the only way evil wins is when good people don't do enough. Not just they don't do anything, they don't do enough. So I don't care if you're an executive out there, and my guest today, as well as myself, both of our spouses are executives. So if you're a CEO, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're working 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, whatever it is that you're doing, I promise you, you were sent here to this earth with greatness, with gifts and talents that you're supposed to bless the world with. So together, we want to inspire everybody to do that. All good people need both hands on deck. And I'm so excited because our topic for today's show is persistence. And our guest is somebody that is very familiar to persistence. And she's also an amazing person, Barbara Wiese. We are so excited to have you, Barbara.
Thank you, Jens. I'm very excited to be here myself.
Well, let me tell you, I met Barbara not too long ago. I actually do an event once a year. It's called Beauty, Brains, and Business. And it's an event that is to inspire people to play bigger and to do things. Yes. And you were actually one of our sponsors this last year in April. And you were phenomenal. I fell in love with you, and I can't get enough of you.
And I fell in love with you at the same time and joined on, and
then we've been together ever since.
Yep.
We've been
having a different way.
Well, you know, something about Barbara is you're a corporate accountant and you've been in that industry for many, many years. So just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into corporate accounting, and then where your heart has taken you, because I think this is really important for our viewers.
Well, basically, I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin. I don't think it had a population of 500, to be honest. And I met my husband, the summer between high school and college. I had gone to school with his younger brothers, and and I don't know, we just started dating and stayed together through school and been married now almost 32 years.
Wow, Barbara, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, we're sitting here talking about persistence as a topic. You've had to have some amazing persistence staying together.
Oh, yeah, there's been, you know, in life, like everything else, there's good days, there's bad days, but if you're committed to something and you have a goal in mind, you find a way to get through everything.
Right. And I think, you know, you and I were talking about this yesterday when we were preparing for the show. And that's one of the things I think is very important is when you're committed to a cause, then you have that persistence within you because you know you made a commitment, and whatever it takes, good or bad, you're going to be persistent in your efforts to succeed. And that's what you've done in your marriage. You're an entrepreneur. You've got some beautiful kids. I think we actually have some pictures. I think we have some pictures, Ziggy, of, well, there's Barbara right there. I love that picture. And I was saying how much I love it now that you've let your hair grow out some. But I think we've got some pictures. And this is these are your two kids and your husband, correct?
Correct.
And what award was your son getting there?
That was actually just his, I think it was his magna cum laude medal at graduation or so.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And then I think we might have one more,
couple. I'm the short one.
Oh, yeah. No kidding. No kidding. And you're not short. How tall are these people, Barbara?
My daughter's like 5'8".
Wow.
My son's probably 6'1", and my husband's like 6 foot. I know. I looked at the picture. I'm like, God, I look.
Now, how old are your kids?
They are 26 and 24.
No way. Are you a grandmother yet?
No, they're still in school.
Oh yeah, that's true. Hey, listen, but they're trucking along. They're trucking along, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been in accounting?
I actually started in accounting immediately after college. And so I guess, gosh, I'm going to date myself here, but I guess it was January of 1987.
Well, I think that when you look as good as you look, that I think it's something that you can say those because you look fabulous. So something that you're doing is agreeing with you. Now, what made you go into accounting?
As a kid growing up, I was the one who math was easy. I could easily get through it, and so I started, a friend of mine worked at a bank, and so I started working as a teller during high school, and when college started, I thought, numbers, accounting, this makes sense, I can do this.
Right.
And just stuck with it.
Now, did you work the entire time that you had your kids growing up? You did?
I did.
I love it. I love that.
I have never quit. I took an extended leave when my son was born, but that was only because of a move. But other than that, no, I have actually worked the entire time that I raised my children.
Now, here's a question that I'm going to ask you. Has accounting been your passion?
No.
No. When did you know? Because, see, this is what I think is really interesting, because when you are good at a lot of things, and there's plenty of us out there that we're really good at many things. So you said, you're in high school, you're working at a bank, you're great with numbers. It seems just natural to go into accounting. You did that. You've done it for 30 years, but it wasn't your passion. At what point did you know what, I don't really think this is my passion? And then what did that persistence with your feeling, trying to identify what your passion was, what did that lead you to?
It's probably been probably the last 10 years. I got burnt out. Those long, grueling days, nights, weekends, they were getting tiresome and old. And multiple times I said, that's it, I'm going to quit, I'm done. And then, I don't know, I'd have a boss that would say, can you stay on just a couple more months? And next thing I know, I never left again.
Right, because that's what happens. Because again, you're doing something that you're good at doing, which every single one of you can relate to, I'm sure.
Most.
And you're a great person. And so when people say, hey, can you please stay a little bit longer? You say yes. And then before you know it, a little bit longer is 10 more years. So you said that to about 10 years ago, you knew, and I think this is another thing, especially for women as moms, we're raising our kids, and that's busy, and we've got our mind on our children's health and their development, and which is so vitally important. So again, we're kind of putting ourselves to the side. But about 10 years ago, you started to say, I don't know if accounting is really my passion. And so from 10 years to how long did it take you to say, I think I'm going to find what my passion really is?
It basically took, I guess it was 11 years ago when I made that choice, and that was as we were moving from New Jersey to California, and the kids were, middle school, high school, rough age to move them. And I said, with this move, I'm not going to work anymore. And, long story, an old boss happened to call me. Somebody had left. He needed somebody to fill that, and it was something I had done. And he said, will you consider it? And it was actually funny because I said, yeah, I would, but there's no office out by me. And so he said,
work at home.
Yep.
Work from home.
Yep. So the last 11 years have been strictly working virtual for them.
Well, when we were talking, one of the reasons why I said you've got to come on the show is because you were telling me how even though you were a successful mom, you were a successful corporate accountant, had a successful marriage, you knew that there was something in you, and you were persistent, which is one of the reasons why I wanted us to cover this topic today. You were persistent about trying to find out, well, what is your passion? And we've got a quote that I love, because it's actually what you brought. It says the price tag for success is courage. I mean, 100%. Determination, discipline, taking risk, perseverance, and consistency. And I really want us to talk a little bit about that, because that's something that really spoke to you. But you did have courage. Here you are in corporate America. You had determination and persistency. You had that discipline. You decided to take a risk. And what did you do to take that risk?
You know, I was kind of looking around at different things, and I'd say, oh, you know, we could start a restaurant. We could, you know, I don't know. I would go through different types of scenarios of different things, and my husband would always be like, those are risky. You know, do you really want to go that extreme? You know, it's going to take 80 hours a week of work. And so I would always be like, well, maybe I don't want to do that. And a dear friend of mine who I'd known for forever was part of network marketing, and we were just chatting one day, and I don't know, she mentioned a product, and I happened to say I wanted to try it, and so I got it from her, and I started taking it, and she went to call me a couple days later, and it was actually kind of funny. My husband was home, and he's always had his knee issues and wanted to have surgery and do a second knee replacement, but his doctor said, no, you're still too young. We're not doing them both. And he heard her calling me and talking to me, and he interjected and said, I have to tell you something. I started taking it, and he goes, my knee does not bother me anymore. It was a product for joints, and he felt amazing. And I was like, maybe this is what I want to do.
Right.
Like, I adore people. I cherish people. I would do anything to help anybody. And I said, you know, it's about being able to help people, giving them a better quality of life, whether it's physically, mentally, providing them a financial opportunity to change their lives. It's just
doing good. It's doing good for people.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, my whole philosophy is there are 3 steps. There are 3 steps to living an extremely successful life and living a fulfilled life, and also working on leaving a legacy. You know, we weren't just sent here to be moms and dads, and that's an amazing calling. And we weren't just sent here to work. That's important too, because we've got to be able to take care of ourselves. But we're sent here to this earth to leave a legacy, that when we are long gone, this earth, this world is a better place because we were in it. And to me, there's 3 steps. Step number 1 is you. And that's really our ultimate goal in life, is to become a top performing leader. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I tell people all the time, you got to hitch your wagon to real leaders. And then when you find real leaders, you stick and stay with them, because a real leader is going to constantly be developing themselves, which is a lot of what I hear in what you're saying. Now, step number 2 is your business, your career, your divine calling. Yeah. And step number 3 is your legacy. And if you are working on you, which is what you did, yes, even though you were working in your career in corporate accounting, you were still continuing to work on yourself. And I think what I find is most people spend the majority of their time, their energy, their effort, their money investing in step number 2. They're not even thinking about their legacy. They're not investing in themselves. And one thing, you know, so to me, step number 1 is personal development. Step number 2 is your professional development. Step number 3 is legacy development. But one of the things that we talked about was when you stepped into that relationship marketing industry, which I am a huge fan of, because in that world, not only professional, but personal development is a way of life.
Definitely.
And when you stepped into it, you said you've grown tremendously just being in that environment.
It is. I actually thought I pretty much knew everything and had all the answers. And, you know, you start reading some books, or you start going to some seminars, or listening to some videos, and you realize
there's so much more.
There's a whole nother
You don't know what you don't know, right?
You don't know. And yeah, and at first I thought, I'm not a salesperson. I can't sell. But what you find out is it's not about selling.
It's not about it. It's who you become during your journey of personal development, which is going to make all the difference in the world. And, you know, we talk about persistence, and, you know, we were going back and forth, and it made me think of a story of, you know, we all have stories of how we've exhibited persistence. And I think my very first we talked about kids. How many of you have kids out there? And when they want something, oh man, I mean, they're like a dog with a bone. I mean, they will not let go of it. You know, it's like, mom, dad, I want this, help me. You know, I mean, that persistence was put into us at a very young age because it's one of the most important skills that we need to just go along this life and try to figure out what we're supposed to be doing. You know, what is that divine calling? What is that legacy? But one of my stories that I remembered from college, and I was sharing with you, is my freshman year in college. I went down to Texas State and San Marcos, had a blast, loved it, had a lot of fun. So all my friends down there, we had a blast. But my second year, my dad lost his job. And in order for me to stay in school, I had to find a job. And my parents said, you know, go down to Rush. You know, I had to go down the week before Rush to get ready. I went through Rush, so it was about a 2.5 week period. And I went to this one restaurant, and I met the manager, and every day for basically 16 days, I would either call the manager, Bubba Norton, Craig Norton, if you're out there, I'm going to tag you in this because he could testify that I did this. I either called him or I went by every single day, because I had to get that job, that persistency of going every day. And I'll never forget, because it was the very last day that I could withdraw from my classes. And if I didn't have that job by the end of that day, I was going to have to withdraw and go back. I was going to have to pack my bags up and go home. And I went in there, and with almost tears in my eyes, I just said, I have to have this job, because if I don't get it, I'm going to have to go home. And so he said, okay, you're hired. But that persistence, whether it's getting a job, whether it's sharing something that's important to you, whether it's trying to figure out what your divine calling is or what more you can do, you have to keep going. You got to be the dog with the bone, you know? I mean, you just have to. And I'm sure there are many stories of your own, or even with your children, that you had that persistence exhibited. And, you know, what were some of those stories in your life?
Gosh, there's been quite a few of them. I mean, you know, I've done some kind of crazy things. You know, who plans to their wedding to be 3 days after they finish college?
What was the motivation behind that, Barbara?
Because I was actually supposed to finish in the spring, and I ended up having to take one more class in the fall.
You know what? But see, I love that, though, because even though you had a bump in the road, your original plan was to get married on a certain date, and it didn't matter. You were persistent with those efforts, and you just said, it's going to happen.
I had this crazy idea. I wanted a Christmas wedding. And
did y'all get married on the 25th?
The 20th, actually.
Wow. But I'm sure it was beautiful and gorgeous.
But here I am trying to take finals, you know, checking on flowers, checking in.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
It was crazy.
But when you have something set in your mind, you know, that's another thing, too, is I think there's so many people that they just give up. You know, they give up on their dreams. They give up on their gifts and talents. They don't, you know, that question, what's your why? You know how many people are like, I don't have a why. I mean, they don't even know. But here's the thing. It's okay if you don't know what your why is, but we all have a why. We all have a reason. Mark Twain, there's a quote, and it says the two most important days of your life are the day you were born, and then the day that you realize why you were born. And I think we can't stop. We have to be persistent in figuring out, why were we born? What are we supposed to leave on this earth to make it better? And I just think it's so important. But I know personal development has played a huge role in your life, especially since you've been in the relationship marketing industry. But what are some of your top favorite books? Maybe your top 3 books?
Oh, I've got a few of them out there. Some of them I've read with you. Some of them I haven't. I mean, I love, you know, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
I'm reading that right now, and I love that book. I love it.
And, you know, my favorite out of that is, you know, number 4, which is win-win, because I view my relationship marketing as a win-win, a win for me and a win for somebody else. Whether it's somebody I'm partnered with, whether I help them solve a problem with my type of product, or maybe I help them find it another way.
Right. But you know what I think is so important about that? And we could do a whole show on those 7 habits. We could do a show every week about just one of the habits. But that win-win is so important, because I think a lot of times people, they only want them to win.
It's always me, right? It's only about me.
You know those people. I'm sure there's nobody out there watching, because all of our people are amazing. But the ones that are always talking about me, I this, I that, me. But when you seek win-win outcomes, it's not how it's going to impact you. You truly are thinking about, how is this going to be a win for the people that I'm working with, or the people that I'm going back and forth with, as well as how is it going to be a win for me? And I know you, and I know that you're the same way as I am, which is it's more important to me to help it be a win for somebody else, because them winning
means I win.
Means we win.
Right.
We win that way.
Exactly.
So, okay, I love that book. If you haven't read Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you got to read it. How about your other 2?
And just I do believe when he had first started out too, he was very, very unsuccessful and failed
miserably. Well, it was interesting, because when you read the very first chapter of his book, he talks about that. He talks about how, my master's degree is in training and development. So I've worked with people for 30 plus years, helping them develop themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's what he said is, all these people would come to him and they weren't achieving their goals. They weren't living their passion. And he really couldn't help them, because he was having those same issues himself. Right. And so it was during his work with other people that he realized, hold on a second, there's 2 ways to operate with people: transactional and relational.
Yes.
And until you start acting relational with people, which means you truly do care about them, it just isn't going to work. So I love that. How about another 1 or 2?
There's another one I've read, Failing Forward.
I haven't read that one.
I love it because it just, in everything you do in life, you're not always successful.
In fact, you're going to fail. If you're not failing, you're not trying.
Probably the quicker you fail and the more often you fail, the sooner you'll be successful.
But that's exactly that. That is so true. And people are afraid to fail. But it's, I will tell you, I met someone incredible this weekend, and she was talking about her life. Oh my goodness. You talk about having endured rape, having endured being drugged, having endured being it was horrible. But she said it was because she suffered so much and went through so much. That's why she is as strong as she is. And we really talked about that persistence of not giving up. You can't give up. So you are going to fail. You're going to fail a lot. And to your point, the more you fail, the quicker you're going to succeed.
It is.
You'll figure it out.
Think of the light bulbs and lights out there. I mean, I think Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times.
Y'all Google this and let us know. I think it was more like 3,000 times.
It was an awful lot. Trying to invent the light bulb, and people would ask him, when are you going to give up on this? And he said, I'm not. I keep learning ways that it's not going to work.
Right. I love it that you just said that. When you said, people would ask him, when are you going to give up? And he said, I'm not. Because that's exactly how I am. I will never give up. It doesn't matter. I will never give up. We'll just keep going and going and going, because one of the things I say all the time is life is like a maze. There's one right way in, there's one right way out, and success happens in action. So you got to just keep moving along, and you're going to learn along the way. Yes. Now, do you have another favorite book?
Oh, I'm not sure. I've been reading so many books since I actually got into relationship marketing, because you really do need to read, like persistently, to understand and to like encourage and drive yourself forward, because it doesn't start out being easy.
No, and we don't want it to be easy. You know, that's the thing is people want life to be easy. Well, let me tell you something right now. If your life is easy, you're not going anywhere. You're going backwards.
Yes.
The only way we become stronger is through adversity. And it's a way of life, and it's a mindset, and reading is, in my opinion, is the biggest ROI of all personal development. It truly is.
It definitely
because
is.
everybody can read a book. Everybody can read a book. And another thing that I think is so important is laughter. And you laugh all the time, and I love that about you. I love that about you. But to me, laughter is so important because I think people, they need to lighten up. I want everybody laughing out there. I want you cracking up. I'm even toying with doing something really fun. I mean, I am definitely going to do something really fun to get people laughing out there. But I think it's important that people realize nothing is forever. So all those bad times you've had, it's not going to be forever. Even if you're in a bad time right now, whether it's with your health, with a relationship, with a job, maybe you're not living in your purpose and passion, it's not going to be like that forever. I promise you, I promise you. And what gets us through those difficult, challenging times is when you can just laugh. So I want to ask you, Barbara, what are some silly, funny things that you've done during your journey of life to keep things laughing and moving forward?
You know, that I don't necessarily, I'm not the prankster. I don't. I'm
You're
probably
going to become one.
I'm more probably the caring person. I'm always trying to help somebody, you know, help them one way or the other. But, you know, over just having moved around the country so many times, and, you know, our last move before Texas, we were in California, and this is like the standing joke in my house, because as much as everybody says they want to live in California, it's beautiful, and it is, but it's a different lifestyle than I was ever used to. And my kids laugh at me all the time, because anytime there's anything maybe on the news or something, you'll hear something of California, and they'll just turn around and go, Mom, so I guess that was all California? You know, anytime there's something bad, they like look at me like...
Well, now let me ask you this. Are your kids, is your husband a prankster?
No, not really. I mean, when he was younger, he was.
Listen, I'm going to share with you some really fun things that you can do with your family. And I'm going to share with everybody some fun things you can do. And I know this is crazy, but even just speaking in a foreign language, this is what's hysterical is, you know, they don't expect that. They're not going to expect that from you, Barbara. So I think when you go home tonight, just start speaking in a foreign language and see how long it takes them to
say something
to
or
say
do something
back to you in a foreign language. Now, this is what's so hysterical is when you start to do that, because my kids, I'm the biggest prankster. My kids are. My husband wasn't. When we first got married, he was very, very serious. And so I would do just silly, funny things. And at first he would just look at me like, Jens, what is wrong with you? A normal adult should not act this way. And then I would just keep acting that way. And then finally it rubs off and people start doing the same. Yeah. But we've got an incredible Laughter is the Best Medicine video for you today. And it makes me laugh because I love the persistence of the little boy with his mom. So Ziggy, take it away.
We need you. Because we need our mama. We need you.
I know you need me.
We don't want you to stay. We need you to stay alive, and we don't want nothing to happen to you.
It's not. That's why I'm here. They probably got me here in the hospital so they can take out your sister, and so I can come home to you after they take her out.
They could take her out. They could take her out tomorrow.
They want to take her out on Sunday.
We need you. Do we need you?
Yeah.
I need you.
I know you need me, okay?
We need you, because we need a mama.
I know.
If they don't...
But you got your daddy and your brother.
I don't need no brother. I don't need no brothers and no dads. I don't need you.
Okay.
I need you.
Okay. I love you.
I love you too.
Okay, so I love that because, I mean, we don't need no daddies. We don't need no mamas. I mean, no brothers. We only need mamas. I mean, we just need the mamas. But I thought I think it's so cute. But I love how persistent that little boy is. And it does make me think about how when we look at our kids and, you know, if you look at how children are, they love to play because there's so much positivity that comes out of it. They love to laugh. We as adults even go overboard trying to make kids laugh because we know at such a young age it's so important. But those qualities of children as we age, for whatever reason, we stop doing those things. So I love that video because it made me laugh and I wanted to make everybody else laugh as well. But I also love it because I loved how that little boy was so persistent with his mother. And I also think it's great that at such a young age, she was like, I don't need no brother. I don't need no daddy. I got you, mama, and that's all I need. So, Barbara, I just want to tell you how much I enjoyed having you on the program, how much I just really admire you for everything that you do, and how much joy you bring into so many people's lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jens. It was wonderful, and
I know that your journey and your story it's going to help a lot of people, and that's what we want to do is we want to help everybody out there be bigger, be bolder, and become the best version of yourselves. So until we meet again next Monday, and let me just say this too. If you watch this and something that we shared today has touched your soul and it has inspired you to do more with your life, or if you know somebody that you think needs this, please, please share it. So until we meet again, be big, be bold, and be you. Bye-bye.